Men don't have a good, tangible example, but we didn't either. A lot of our moms, they're either the late 60s or the early 70s, were not, they were serial daters. And serial daters create serial daters. And so therefore we didn't have an example of what real love was either, because 9 times out of 10, if you're a serial dater, a lot of your relationships are probably going to be toxic. So from someone who grew up with a brother, and my mother treated my brother like he was a prince, and I wasn't treated like a princess. I was treated like I was bred to be independent.
Who's ready for some girl talk?
Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Nicole D. Miller, author, blogger, speaker, hybrid book publisher, and your host. At Girl Talk, we are a safe space for female leaders to engage in healing and edifying conversation. This is your Me Too empathetic corner, where we have authentic and transformative dialogue designed to uplift and connect high-achieving women like you. Are you looking for a safe space to cultivate sisterhood with other like-minded female bosses? Leave your cape at the door and join the conversation. And we're back with part 4 of Can Black Love Still Happen? I'm your host, Nicole D. Miller. This is our final conversation, you guys, and since you've been tapping in from the beginning, you know it's a good one. If for some reason you missed the other parts, circle back and check those out first. Joining me are several heavy hitters: Brittany Ervin, Jamia Lewis, Secret James, Butter Khan, Kianna Lavender, Marlia Hall, Dr. Shamarah J. Hutchins, Ari Baker, Nikki B, and Mary Johnson. We all know love is complicated, but for many Black women, it feels like we're navigating a maze we were never given a map for. Maybe you grew up watching your mom hold it down alone. Maybe you were one who followed what the songs, streets, or hood tales told us about relationships. Or maybe for you, independence wasn't just encouraged, it was necessary for survival. And being vulnerable, being submissive, those were rarely looked at as positive traits for Black women in the home. If you relate to any of these experiences, you're in the right place. This is the experience of so many of us in this next conversation. But still, we dare to ask the hard questions, break the cycles, and try to rewrite the narrative for ourselves and future generations. So let's get to it. Grab your favorite beverage, sit back, relax, and join the conversation.
Because what I think of a role model might be something different than you. And to understand that sometimes it's good that we have to go find. Sometimes it's not. I mean, we all say that networking is good, right? But people want networking to come to them. So sometimes we have to go find those particular individuals that we are seeking to be those role models. And we have to talk and let them know, because sometimes Black men don't understand that they are role models, but they don't see themselves as that, right? So we have to understand that we have to acknowledge and let them know, because we can always assume, but I always say when we assume, we make an ass out of ourselves and them. So we need to make sure that we let them know you'll be a great person. It's not about what you do for a living, it's how you carry yourself. You will be a good mentor, you will be a good role model for individuals. Have you ever thought about that? Because all they just need is you will be good at this.
So affirm our men. I love that.
Yes. So Lauren said there are many Black men, especially fathers, who are married or not married, trying to show it is possible to live a legit life without feeling the pressure of society to be something that they don't need to be. Also, Lauren again, also, I think when Black men try to step out and be themselves, do we really accept them for who they are, or do we have our expectations wherever they come from, try to drive the relationship? So we have our own just as much as men have expectations on us, we low key have expectations of them too. So understanding that, but okay.
All right, Secret, you're up.
Yay, the 90s baby. No,
Down.
so as a 90s baby, I gotta say this because this is something that I've noticed amongst myself and literally probably all of my friends. Men don't have a good tangible example, but we didn't either. A lot of our moms from they're either the late 60s or the early 70s were not, they were serial daters. And serial daters create serial daters. And so therefore we didn't have an example of what real love was either, because 9 times out of 10, if you're a serial dater, a lot of your relationships are probably going to be toxic. So from someone who grew up with a brother, and my mother treated my brother like he was a prince, and I wasn't treated like a princess. I was treated like I was bred to be independent. So I don't think that either one of us had, for my generation, I don't think that either one of us had any type of tangible examples there to even lead us and to let us know. And for the women, we had to go and get our examples off of social media, out of the tabloids, what was on TV, what was in books. And like I said, my first example of love came from a book, The Worst Thing Ever. Why? Because I read Hood Tales. So that means my first example of love told me that I had to struggle and I had to stand beside a man until he got his life together. So if that's my first example of love, and then the man's first example of love from my generation is typically going to either be TV or music, they weren't taught anything different than what I was taught. They weren't taught to respect women. They weren't taught to love women. They weren't taught to show women respect, nor was love a popular thing. Like, love hasn't been a glorified thing on both ends. Being submissive as a woman has not been a glorified thing. It wasn't until recently, with me doing my own journey and doing my own studies, that I realized that being submissive did not mean I had to shut up and listen. And that was something that I had to go and dig up myself, because I was raised by my grandmother, who was an old school Bible toter. So therefore, their version of submission is not the same as everybody else's version of submission. So I don't want to use the fact that they didn't have an example as an excuse to why the reason Black love is the way it is right now. There are so many reasons why Black love is the way that it is right now, and that's because of the way that it is portrayed. But I will say that neither one of us had the example. Women were raised to be independent in my generation, and the men were actually taking the place of the boyfriend in my generation.
Good points. Mary?
I think that there are many good examples, but they're just not glorified, or those are the ones that were raised in a good environment, or even wasn't a good environment. They took from that and they decided to treat their families a lot different because they didn't want them to go through the same experiences that they did. I just don't think that we see it enough, because you know the whole phrase, you attract how you act. But if you're not in that rhythm of those type of people, then you won't see it. I see it all the time. I think I see a whole bunch of Black love examples, for especially the men. I see a lot of good examples, a lot of professionals. I would say, I would speak on mine in particular. He loved family. He's a great example to his children, all that good stuff. But if you're busy, hardworking, and all that kind of stuff, how do you get an opportunity to even put that on display? And then going back before, like, I'm an 80s baby. So back in the day, our families did have good examples. Like I just spoke before, like my grandfather, he wasn't perfect, but he did show us a good example of how a Black man is supposed to be there for his wife, and vice versa. So did my parents. But I just think that it's not glorified enough. That's, they don't talk about that as much, the examples for the Black men in particular. That it's just not talked about, but I think it's a whole bunch of them out there. It's a lot of examples.
Thank you, Mary. Butter?
So I agree with pretty much everything a lot of you ladies are saying. So it's kind of hard to really have a lot to say, besides reiterating everything. But just a couple of key points I wanted to make was that it's like a bandwagon time to me. Everybody's on this bandwagon. I think they make doing bad easier. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of people who don't want to take therapy, and men are taught that therapy is not good. Like, they just are scared to face that. It's okay to talk to somebody. And we're out here depressed and lost because this world is weird once again. So, and I also feel like it's not just, I'm not going to sit here and say it's so hard to find a good Black man, because I know there's a lot of good Black men out there, because I know a lot of them. They're good friends of mine. So I know they exist. I just honestly feel like I had to start to own up to my mistakes and my issues myself. I'm making bad decisions. I was manifesting things in my head, not realizing it until I got to this certain mature level. Once I hit 40, I started to realize that I allowed one bad situation to curve my thought process so bad that I was attracting all the bad things that I said I did not want. I had been through a domestic abusive marriage. I was married for 8 years, and it was horrifying. I call it Alcatraz. And it was just devastating. And I allowed that to beat me down so low that I would start to say things like, maybe love isn't for me. Maybe this is just what I'm going to have the rest of my life. Maybe I was just meant to just have kids and just be a single mom and be out here like that. Or, maybe I don't deserve it yet, or I did something wrong and I need to fix myself. So I'm manifesting, attracting people who were willing to treat me in that light. The more I started to walk in my light and realize what I am capable of, how strong of a beautiful Black woman I am, and what I can really do, and how great of a woman and wife I will be to someone, the better my life started becoming. And I just had to receive that it just wasn't my train coming yet. So I know it's coming. And it's not that the men out here are just horrible that I'm facing, because a lot of them just really don't have it all right now, but neither do we. It's just that it's just not my turn yet, because I can feel it coming. So I think there's comes to a point where we have to accept our own flaws too, to realize that we see what we want to see and hear what we want to hear. And it's like, when we say like, this man is this and this and that, and it's kind of like, no, we're putting so much on this one Black man. This may not be for us, that we're starting to put that label on a lot of other Black men, the same as they do to us. So I'm not saying like that's what everyone's doing. That's just my opinion of, sometimes we tend to not look at our own flaws and choices that we are making ourselves that are causing a lot of the experiences that we're having. But I do know that because I raised 3 Black men, and they are wonderfully respectful young Black men, and they're going to make great husbands to someone. They're not perfect, but they're going to make great husbands. They're very respectful. They are driven, and everything on the check off great list, and I think that we just have to start to look at ourselves and what we're allowing and accepting, and then start to implement that on, who are we putting ourselves around that's allowing that type of light to receive, what's not really working for us. Just an opinion.
Definitely agree with those points. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Kianna?
All right. So for me, I totally agree with just about everything that everyone has said, and definitely believe that the obstacles were there from the beginning. This goes back to like having good, healthy role models and having the people to learn from, whether they're in your family or having a mentor, having a therapist or something like that. And the culture for most Black people, women mainly, is to be independent. And then that challenge in itself can harm your relationship because you're just being too independent. And that can sometimes intimidate some men. I know earlier we talked about the statistics, and we talked about, the money and things that men make and them actually choosing a Black woman. But think about the fact that there are some Black women that do make a lot of money, and the men aren't making as much money, and that sometimes harbors a relationship. And some women, hurt themselves in the relationship sector because they don't know how to allow the man to be just that, be the man in the relationship. She can do and feel like she's doing everything, and her ego can get in the way, and then his ego can get in the way. And it's like where the conversation isn't really happening the way it should be. You're not communicating, you're bumping heads, and you're like putting all of these stipulations into the relationship where, everybody's struggling and not knowing where they can fit in because they didn't see it. They didn't have the patterns that were good and healthy. They're having those toxic relationships that are just starting to have like a domino effect. I know at least that's my experience, and I really didn't think of it as being a serial dater, but that's pretty much what I was, because I was looking for something and I didn't really know what I was looking for. And for men, it hurts them when they never really have or know or see or feel love, and that emotion is like taken away from them so early in life because they're playing outside and they get hurt or something like that, and they're like, stop crying, toughen up, be tough, stop, don't show no emotion. And that's like embedded in them. And as a woman trying to raise a boy, I didn't raise boys, I raised girls, but I can see the difference where the woman is treated away and then the boy is treated away when they're growing up, and it just harbors their lifestyle and really doesn't change unless they actually do get some type of help or a good mentor, a good person, a good friend, or somebody to help guide them in the right direction.
Thank you, Kianna. And Jamia.
So what I'll say as far as men and role models, what I will say is that I do think that men are searching, like Black men are searching. And that's why a lot of them have found safety and a message that resonates with them within this manosphere stuff. So if you've ever talked to a man or been around a man who is aligned with that type of thinking, I think a lot of it is rooted in pain. So coming across a number of different men who, they got their own rejection issues or different things that they're dealing with or hurts that they feel, and that, in ways that they accuse Black women of being a part of why they are the way that they are. So I think when somebody is seeking out something unhealthy like that, with as far as what's taught with the whole manosphere stuff, I think to Butter's point with her bringing up, it's you see what you want to see, you hear what you want to hear. It's like when we're in tune with an expectation, this is what all Black men are doing right now, then that's all we gonna see, Black men that are doing that right now, versus having the mindset of, and also the point that she made about working on yourself, because that was a real big one for me, me becoming healthier, me making healthier choices for me, and then that being able to put me in a position where I can identify a man who is also operating in a healthy pattern that is not aligned with the whole manosphere stuff, because that's not where he's at. Now, he might have some other issues. I'm thinking about somebody real specific, but and not that I don't have my own. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is it was refreshing to come across someone who I'm like, okay, this work that I'm doing on myself is paying off, because here's someone who's come across my path who can, function on a healthier level. I think that's more or less kind of the way that I don't know, that also sounds like I'm talking a good game. Nicole is the one that hears most of my complaints and and cries.
Yeah,
I sound real good right now, though. I'm saying I sound real good. This is a strong day, but so that's all.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. I think there are a lot of different reasons as to why our community struggles. For me, I would root it back to slavery. I know that's been mentioned. We think about how men were removed from women, marriages were torn apart, men had to witness their wives being brutally sexualized by quote unquote masters. And there's just so much trauma in our DNA. And I am a believer in generational either blessings or trauma, that we are not separated from our ancestors. And if things are not healed, specifically in our DNA, then it's going to keep repeating the cycles. For me, like I said, I didn't have those examples, but I have been on a journey of healing and becoming healthier and looking for men who are on that same journey. So even if men do have a deficit of not having those strong examples of strong men in their lives or healthy relationships, just as I didn't, I wasn't raised in that household, there's still an accountability and a responsibility for you to level up. And so in this experience of dating, I do feel like it's rare to find men on that same wavelength. And we've touched on it. Some of that is because they're told you can't be vulnerable, you can't show emotion, you can't get therapy. It's like Black men are just now kind of tapping into therapy. I feel like therapy is kind of like a hot topic right now in the Black community in general. Our history is you go to Jesus, that's all you need. Well, counseling is a fruit of the spirit. We need to be tapping into wisdom and knowledge. So I think there's a lot of different reasons, but at the end of the day, you are accountable. Like, we can't choose the hand that we're dealt, but we are accountable for what we make out of it, right? So there's a lot of reasons as to why our community gets hit. I do want to share some of these things from the chat before we wrap up, because we are wrapping up. It's been a very meaty topic, as I knew it would be. So we have Robin, even a lot of Black women don't have prime examples of a long-standing Black relationship or a great woman figure in their life to learn love in a relationship. It definitely leads to dysfunction and confusion from both sides, men and women. It's disheartening. And again, it's like we both are kind of in that same boat. They have their issues, we have ours, but it's about doing the work. And for me, I know you guys touched on independence. That is definitely a thing for me, being the independent, strong Black woman. And that's why I'm grateful for community and learning how to be interdependent and leaning into that growth of being healthier. Santusi, let's also not forget the fact that most males have to grow to the point where it is cool to be in a committed relationship and treating your lady like a queen and wanting that family versus wanting to be cool by being a player, no commitment, and basing their worth and value off of the number of women you can get. You better preach. Because I definitely had an experience of that mindset, and I recognize it's an immature mentality. It's definitely in hip hop. That is a clear message. And sadly, you have 40-year-old grown men still believing it's hot to be a player, whatever. Then we have Sabrina at Robin. Just as the Jewish, Asian, and Greek communities have after school and Saturday schools to teach culture and history so their legacies don't die away, we have to establish the same. I think that's a powerful suggestion for us to teach the next generation about our heritage and our culture. Honestly, for me, my writing is that platform. That's why I specialize in writing stories that depict Black culture and spirituality. I recognize that's my purpose, but I definitely agree with that. And then Robin, very true. We don't even try to explain and teach that. Us as a people don't think about legacy and culture. We rather think about what looks good in the eyes of other people and put on a specific persona. It's a shame. And that makes me think about our culture being all about materialism and like, we got swag, we're cool, we fly, but a lot of that stuff is so surface and is not meaningful as far as character, mindset, intellect. Marlia, affirming men is so important. Nicole, scripture shares what the wise woman builds up and a folly woman tears down. And then Dr. Hutchins left. Sabrina, to love Blackness, we have to understand that the standards of beauty for us is not European beauty. Whew, that's a whole nother topic. It's African beauty, which is a whole different set of standards. And, we can get into that in another conversation as far as how westernized views of beauty. And we did kind of talk a little bit about this in our last conversation. You could check it out on the YouTube. And it was just about how our standards of beauty in America have shaped our views as Black people. And then Brittany, men are not given a space where they can be vulnerable in many cases and in turn internalize their emotions. And I agree, as women, we just kind of flock together. We go to the bathroom together. I have so many sisters in my life that I pour out to on a daily, and I don't come across as many men who have that. Some of them do, but it's definitely less when it comes to us, I think. Okay, guys, so thank you guys for joining. Girl Talk, can Black love still happen? I think overall, we touched on a lot, but at the end of the day, we do still believe it can, right? And we do recognize we do have specific trauma and challenges that come against that being exemplified in our culture, but it is possible. And we're just looking for our counterparts who have the heart to love us, but want to do the work to have a healthy relationship. Are there any last pieces of encouragements that you guys want to share that can help equip single Black women in finding healthy Black counterparts or love? If there's any resources, I know Marlia is going to share some things, so we'll call on her first, but any resources, podcasts, books, you can even put them in the chats and we'll definitely, tap in. But go ahead, Marlia. I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I don't remember who actually brought this up. I want to say it was maybe something that Butter had said or someone else, but it is very important, ladies, for you to shift how you see yourself and how you go about moving in this world. If you desire to be a wife, you're not going to be at the grocery store looking for the next guy. You're going to be walking confidently because you know you already have someone. If this is one thing that God told me, I was single for 4 years, raising my kids on my own. And he said, you want to be a wife? Act like one now. I want this bed clean. I want this bed made up. I want your food made by a certain day. Like, he had me doing this like whole house building thing before my husband even came into my life. So when my husband came into my life and we got married, I had all these habits and this structure in place where he walked into a ready-made wife and family, which was really important. But here are some resources, guys. There's this book called The Law and the Promise. It's written by a man called Neville Goddard, and he is all about shifting the world around you by shifting who you are in the inside. And he talks about being intentional with your imagination and being intentional with your actions and different things. Neville Goddard's The Law and the Promise. There's also a woman who was in the 1930s. She wrote several books. Her name is Florence Go Bo Shen. You can find her books on YouTube. You can just listen to them. But she teaches people how to just get whatever success they want. And I have used techniques from Neville as well as Florence, and even like things like The Secret. Like, you really have to shift who you are. And as you become a different person, as your cells change, as your mind changes, as your energy changes, as the way you walk changes and become more that person, whether that's a wife, whether that's someone who's healed from a chronic disease, whether that's someone who is financially wealthy. As you shift yourself on a mental and cellular level, the whole world around you will reflect that. So I do think that we have to change your conversation. Start saying things like, I am a wife. Start affirming, I am a wife. I am loved by a wonderful man. I have a wonderful husband. And start seeing yourself as this person. Start seeing yourself. I used to do crazy stuff like have conversations like, hey, I had a good day. I'm so happy to see you. Just talking to nobody, just talking to the thin air. But I needed my cells and my brain to start to rewire with different conversations and exposing it to different things. And lo and behold, my husband stepped into my life. But he actually stepped in when I shared this with Nicole at a time that I told God, God, you are enough. I don't need a man. All I want to do is be a single mom, empowering other single moms to live out their purpose full time. And 3 weeks after I said that, my husband's in the audience giving me his business card. Like, that was a great speech. Let's hook up. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, right when I just gave it all to God, he walked into my life.
I love it. I love Marlia's testimony and the power of our mindset and the thinking as a man thinks in his heart. So is he is so true. We're going to hear from Brittany, then Mary, then Secret, then Butter.
I just wanted to say, too, thank you so much for including the conversation. This was really good. And I just wanted to say, just to be comfortable in the space and the season that you're in. I think many times, it's just put out there so much, you have to be in this space and that space by this age or that age, that we miss the moment and the space and the seasons that we're in our lives. So just to be comfortable in the space and that you're in and to where you're going. And then I would just say, for advice, have great, honest conversations and communication. That's key. And a book that I would suggest are the 5 Love Languages. It's, it's simplistic and it's interesting to, get into that whole space with that and just some of the dynamics that people have about themselves. So that's all, keeping it short. Thank you all.
Brittany, you bring up such a good point about not comparing. We all have a unique story and all of our stages are different. And I know Butter touched on this too, as far as knowing that her time just hasn't come. So thank you for that reminder. Mary?
I just wanted to say, for the ladies, just give yourself some grace. And just like Marlia was saying, you can manifest anything that you want in life. And it wasn't for me. It wasn't that big for me until I really started to just stop being so hard on myself. And this whole list of who you have, who you think you want to be with, and they got to check off all these boxes. I get that, but just give yourself some grace. And if the more you love on you, the more you will attract, especially in a relationship. You got to be able to give that same energy that you want from a man to yourself, and he'll respect you more. And you're definitely going to manifest the man that God has chosen for you. And one little tidbit I wanted to share, as far as self-reflection go, my friend had bought me some cards that were called "Who Are You?" and it proposes all these questions. It's by Mind Compass. I'll put it in the chat. And it proposes all these questions that you can ask yourself, and you just do the homework and you write it down. And, and then you can go back for more self-reflection. But I think that was the biggest thing for me. It wasn't until I started doing the work on myself is then when I found my exact match that God had chosen for me. And excuse me, I love God. I'm gonna constantly keep saying it because I believe in him and what he does for me in my personal life. And so if it wasn't for him keeping me until I was ready to be whole enough for a man that I wanted on this high level or that list that I was going down or whatever, then, I would have been able to gain what I have now. So just give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself, and be a little bit more open to our Black men because they don't have it all together. Stop being so judgmental and let them be who they are. And if it ain't a match, it ain't a match. If this is something that you can agree with it. But just, give yourself some grace, love on you, and give them a little bit of grace too.
Thank you so much, Mary. You definitely don't have to apologize for sharing your truth and being true to yourself with your faith. And I think Secret and then Butter, is that what the order was? Secret then Butter?
Yes. So I just wanted to say thank you. It's always a pleasure to be in a part of these girl talks, mostly because I'm always the baby. And so I always leave with some wisdom from, women who have experienced a lot more life than me. So I always am very appreciative of that. One of the resources that I feel like really helped me not only understand myself, but understand men and maybe their thought process was a book by Dr. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So I certainly recommend everyone to read that book because even if you aren't looking to understand a man, read the book because you're looking to understand yourself. And I'm heavy on the grace. That was my only New Year's resolution, was to have grace on myself so that I could bestow it onto others. I like that Mary said that because now I'm going to move forward with actually extending that grace to men.
Thank you, Secret.
Thank you. Have a good night, lady.
Thank you. Butter, gonna close us out?
Yes, I just want to say, first of all, it was a pleasure being a part of this and meeting all of you ladies who I did not meet previously. You guys are all beautiful, had some amazing things to say. I try to take notes again so I can stay on track. just holding yourself accountable is what I want to leave with. Hold yourself accountable for the things that we're trying to do. Stop putting so much on someone else if we're not willing to step up and be everything that we say that we really are. Because I don't want to sit here and tell a man I need this, but I'm not sitting here being the woman that I say that I really am. Am I really that supportive? Am I really going to uplift you? Am I really going to, do the things that I say I'm doing? Am I that positive? And I can't expect that type of love if I'm not pouring that love out or loving myself correctly. And really quickly, I have a friend that it's a client, but a good friend that came in the shop, and he said, "You have been glowing." And I said that, a lot of people think I'm glowing because I have a man. There is no man. And actually, honestly, just a few months ago, I had went through a very short, bad situation. I'm glowing because I am happy. I'm glowing because I know God loves me. And I have been feeling so light. And that light had been glowing and showing through. So it's like my world has gotten bright. I haven't thought about or worried about there's no man by my side or I don't have any dates. I am absolutely happy with myself. And I know that it shows. So that's what I'm attracting. You will attract what you put out. The last thing I wanted to say was the resource. I don't have a resource. I want to say that the resource should be us. This right here, this platform that you have put together right here is something that we need to have more of. In my studio, it's called Ink Therapy because I give therapy. When God gives me a message, I try to give that out. If you walk into my studio, leave the bullshit outside. When you come in here, I want positivity. I am going to talk to you. If you're having a rough day, let's cry and let's get rid of it. And let me try to tell you what good things you should be thinking of versus the bad and the negative. When you have a sister that's sitting next to you saying, I'm about to do this or acting crazy, try to check her. Stop letting everybody just be out there going loosey-goosey and acting crazy. And we're trying to be a community. My best friend can't walk out talking crazy. She's married. No, I'm going to check her. That's not cool with me. I'm not going to agree with everything that you say. And we could still love each other and disagree. But where's the support that we're really having each other instead of talking about each other? So this right here needs to be bigger and start to let's hold ourselves accountable and hold each other accountable more often and be more supportive of Black women so we can be better, so we can raise the Black man to be the man that we are out here looking for. Because I have 3 amazing ones. And I'm really praying that there's going to be some good Black women when it's time for them to go and start to build their own families. So thank you for hearing me out and for letting me be a part of this today. I'm honored.
Wow, you got me emotional, girl. I love it. Thank you guys just so much for your hearts to offer your time, your wisdom, your thoughts. I am encouraged that there's so many women in this space who are raising strong Black men. So I'm like, okay, next generation, we got you. But yeah, I appreciate all of the dialogue. I personally have walked this out with a close group of women who have just been, holding the standard, keeping the faith, and believing God for his best. So I will keep all of you in prayer. I already have been. I've asked the same. As we try to be our authentic selves. So I'll be sharing this again in the YouTube channel. You'll get an email with the link. Thank you to all of our panelists. I will be sending out this chat. Definitely support local Black businesses and be on the lookout for the next Girl Talk. We've been doing them quarterly. They're the last Sunday of each quarter. I didn't get to do it in April because I had my book launch. I just had too much going on. But like you said, growth, that's definitely happening. And again, I just appreciate all of you guys hearing the spirit, coming in unity, forming a tribe, forming community. I would not be where I am today without my community. So thank you guys for being a part of my community. All right, guys, that's all we have. Thank you for your time. Be on the lookout for the next Girl Talk, and we will talk soon.
Welcome back to our final conversation of Can Black Love Still Happen? One of the reasons I chose the women who I did for this conversation is because I wanted the thoughts and perceptions from a well-rounded group of high-achieving women. You'll notice we had women from various life stages, ages, and industries. I did this because I wanted to capture the experience of being a Black woman who is pro-Black love, no matter these variables. And for my fellow singles, I wanted to give us hope that we too can one day have a healthy relationship with a Black man. Some of the nuggets that were shared were that many of us, like Secret, were bred to be independent, while boys were put in the place of husbands in the single-parent home. Several of us were raised by working moms who were serial daters. TV, music, and hood tales became the mentors on love for our generation. Now, on the flip side, there were positive examples of Black love for some of the women. And could it be that society doesn't highlight these good Black men doing their thing enough because they want the narrative to further divide us as a community? I personally can't say I've seen enough examples of Black love in my family. There were a couple, but most of the strong characteristics of honorable leadership were with the women. And unfortunately, the men I'm seeing today in leadership roles, well, they're killing it in community service and even fatherhood, but they're horrible with the love interests in their lives. They're still womanizers and neglecting this area of healing. In this chat, we also discussed the negative narrative surrounding therapy for Black men. Society already pressures men to stifle their emotions. They don't have as many spaces to be honest about how they feel like women do. I think that fosters a personality to act out in unhealthy behaviors. Often, people who are in pain act out in anger and aggression, and the behaviors overshadow the underlying need for inner healing. What I'll say is, I believe women are leading in the area of inner healing and wholeness, and will need to spearhead those spaces for men to do the same. That's actually a very uncomfortable statement for me to make, because I've had a rocky past with men, and part of me is like, y'all get it together, figure it out. But we each have our role, and what we have, we can give away. I've been the benefit of community, support, healing, and growth. I have these experiences to create experiences, and one of those ways I've done that is through Girl Talk. Clearly, I'm not saying I have it all together, and one thing I appreciated about our conversation is that we owned up to our stuff. But at the end of the day, we're all accountable to get the healing and growth we need. If you're a woman struggling with submission, aggression, bad communication, etc., do the work. If you're a man, do the work. I wholeheartedly believe that if we each do the work, we will see community and culture transformation. It starts with us. One of the suggestions made in the conversation was that we should establish community organized groups to teach and train the next generation on these truths, legacy, and culture. I want to give a special shout out to New Era, which is a community organization here in Cleveland that specializes in training and empowering the next generation with legacy and knowledge of our history. I'll close out to echo the statement Marlia made. If you're a woman looking for love, renew your mind and language. We're made in the image of the Creator, who created all things with a few words. Let there be light. To sum up our conversation, or at least put a pin in it since we may have to revisit this topic, we are looking for counterparts who have the heart to love us and want to do the work to accomplish this. We had a lot of resources mentioned in this chat, so tap into the show notes for those, as well as the IG handles for our guests. Okay, thank you all for joining the conversation. Make sure to tap into the next one, Dealing with Grief at the Holidays. Many of us navigate the holidays with a heavy heart. Loneliness, depression, and grief are usually at an all-time high. This next conversation will give space to dialogue about that. All right, friends. Till next time. And remember, I attract amazing women doing amazing things. So guess what, sis? That means you're amazing. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. To continue the conversation, join our Girl Talk community by following @GirlTalkCLE on Instagram and Facebook.com/HTOHB, where you can join the Girl Talk Facebook group. You can follow me personally on Instagram @HTOHB, on Facebook.com/HTOHB, and at YouTube.com/@HTOHB. Feel free to reach out via email info@indiemillerpublishing.com. If you're a writer who wants to take the next steps into becoming a published author, you can book a one-on-one consultation at indiemiller.pub. Just let me know you heard about my publishing house through Girl Talk, and I'll give you a 50% discount on our one-on-one. If you like weekly inspirational nuggets, you can subscribe to my blog and monthly newsletter at NicoleDmiller.com, where you can learn more about me and my writings. Till next time.